The first thing that you need to do in PowerSchool is install the MyFlexLearning plugins. We can find the plugin management when I'm at the district office under System Management, Server, Plugin Configuration. Here you will see any plugins that you have already, and this is where we want to import and install the MyFlexLearning plugins. Now, you would have had to download the MyFlexLearning plugin zip file. The address for that can be found in the documents we provided. Again, when you want to download the plugin zip files for MyFlexLearning and PowerSchool, you can find that link right here in the instructions for the setup of PowerSchool to MyFlexLearning plugins. That will bring you to a Google Drive folder, and you will see 5 zip files, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that are used as plugins to create the data integration from PowerSchool to MyFlexLearning. So you'll want to download each of those and install them in the plugin configuration screen. Downloaded the plugin zip files from MyFlexLearning's directory. You want to install those in PowerSchool. And again, where we do that is under System Management, Plugin Configuration, which will bring you to this screen. Now, when you're here, you want to click on Install and choose File, use the Choose File option to import each of these. So for instance, I'll first do the students one. So I'll upload that and then click Install. If the plugin installs successfully, you should get a message that says that, and you will be able to find it in here. If you can't, you can always search for MyFlexLearning, but you'll see they start with PLS MyFlexLearning students. So again, you want to do that for each of the plugins, the 5 plugins that you've downloaded. Now, after you've installed all the plugins, again, I have the 5, so school identifier, staff, student schedules, and students, I want to enable those. You may get a message when you enable them. So let's disable this one and re-enable it. So if I come in, for instance, and re-enable the students one, you may get a message that says, are you sure you want to do it? Because it contains content that has not been verified by PowerSchool Group. We contracted with a consulting firm to create these, and they have been tested on many, many schools in this exact format, and they work great. So you should be able to just go ahead and click enable, and those will turn those on. Now, before we set up any of the other plugins or the remote connection management, which we'll do in a second, the first thing we want to do, so we don't forget to do it, is to enable certain schools or the schools you want to send data to MyFlexLearning to do so. Otherwise, we'd send all the data from the district, which we don't want, right? Obviously, there are some schools in your district that may be using MyFlexLearning and some that may be not using MyFlexLearning. Now, if you refer to the instructions of how to install these plugins, you'll see that with this school identifier plugin, what it will do is create a custom page, really, in a table that will allow you to enable for the schools that you want to send data to MyFlexLearning, and obviously not enable for the schools you don't. Now, if you're on the newest version of PowerSchool with the newest interface, which most folks at this point may be, what you're going to need to do is copy this address right here and replace the XXX with your URL for your PowerSchool instance. So for instance, with mine, if we look here, you'll see that this will match from the admin on, will match everything you see in that document, but I've replaced here psbackup.fluco.org. And now it will load this page that says MyFlexLearning school data and will allow me to enable this. Now, I should have mentioned before, you want to be at the school that you want to do this for, and you can do this for multiple schools. You just need to go to each one and enable them. But let's say here at Apple Grove High School, they're the only school within my district that's going to be using MyFlexLearning. So I'm going to enable that. I'm going to click submit. And now once I've done this, my exports, so my student exports, my staff exports, my schedule and grades exports will know to only export data from Apple Grove High School. Again, if I had gone to Cherry Hill Middle School and then again put in that URL, I could come in and turn that on, and maybe in subsequent years, other schools will hopefully come on with MyFlexLearning, and you can enable those when you're ready. Now, once you have imported the plugins for MyFlexLearning, you're going to want to create a remote connection to the MyFlexLearning SFTP server. So first off, if you don't already have it, your project manager, your customer relationship manager from MyFlexLearning can provide you with the credentials and the information to connect to your SFTP connection from MyFlexLearning. But I'll show you here under remote, once you have that, under remote connection management and under remote connection manager. So that, again, that was under plugin remote connection. You've probably done this before. You want to create a new connection. Now I've got one I already created here. Let's just go through this. You can really name it whatever you want. I'm going to call it MyFlexLearning. It's an SFTP connection protocol. This is the host name. So this will be the same for anyone, sftp.myflexlearning.com. And then the port is 22. You want to leave the authentication type at password. And then this is where you're going to put in your username and password that will be provided by MyFlexLearning to you. You can test that connection. So if you click on here, it'll just test to make sure that it's not really sending anything. It's just making sure it can hit that server. And then for the remote path, where we would like you to put the files you're going to send us is /uploads. And that's going to be a file, a folder within your FTP folder that will hold all of those. So once you've done that, also check allow upload and allow download. Once you've done that, click submit, and you'll now have that remote connection set up to the MyFlexLearning SFTP server. Now, after you've set up or installed your plugins and set up your remote connection, we need to come in and we need to set up our exports. So if I come into data and reporting and then exports, data export manager, again, if you're on another version of PowerSchool, you might need to get there another way. But when I come into my data export manager here, I'm going to go to show all with my export from, so you can find those MyFlexLearning plugins. All of them will start with a NQ, as they are they have some of the Power Query in them. But if you scroll down, you should find them here. So you'll see, for instance, and you'll only see the 4, which are students, student schedules, grades, and staff. You will not see that plugin for school identifier, because as we just explained, that was only to enable the data from that particular school to be exported. So let's, for instance, start with students, and you'll do the same thing for all of these. So go ahead and select the student export. You'll see all your columns here, so you want to select all of those. You can choose change the column header. So for instance, if you want to take out like students.01 and just have it say school ID or student number or things like that, do that. We do want a column header in there. We just don't need all of that, or you can leave it like that. Once you've done that, on records to export, there is the ability to filter by certain fields. Those fields we're including, which as you see are not that many. We would not suggest filtering here unless you have a very specific reason for that. Pretty much what you want is all active students in PowerSchool, right? Within that school, obviously, to be brought over to MyFlexLearning. So I'm not going to filter anything. I'm just going to export all rows. If you want to check that this is working, you can actually click on Show Records, and you'll see here, the list of students who would be exported. I have just under 600. Now, remember, I set this up to only be for the high school. So, if you had multiple schools, your number may be more, but obviously, all depending on your size. Now, when you hit next, the last thing you need to fill in is the export summary and output options. So the biggest things here is your MyFlexLearning account manager will give you a file prefix. And generally, this will be some sort of abbreviation of your school name. So for instance, Apple Grove High School here. So you see, for instance, the student one, I want to name AGHS or whatever MyFlexLearning provides to you, -student, and then .csv. So by default, this will be a .txt file. You want to change that file extension to .csv, as we want a comma separated values file. For the line delimiter, you're going to leave that at carriage return. We're going to change the field delimiter to comma. Again, this is a comma separated file we're accepting, so we want to make sure we have that. And then our character set, we want to change to UTF-8. Also leave include column headers checked, as that will export the column headers, which we need also. Now, you could at this port run this export if you wanted and download that to see kind of how it looks. So I can just, bring this up and open it up. Just taking a second to open up. But also, while it's opening up, you can simply save your template. Now, I would suggest naming it something like MyFlexLearning and then student, right? This being the student export. And I'll say save or save as new the first time you do it. Here is my export that I already exported. So you'll see here all those columns, school ID, student number, so on and so forth. Looks good. My column headers. So it looks like it worked well. So again, I now saved those or that template. Now you're going to want to do that for each of them. So you're going to want to create one for the staff, for the schedule, and for the grade. So you should have 4 of those templates. Now you may have more templates when you go to My Templates, but you should have 4 for MyFlexLearning. You have each of these scheduled, created. You want to schedule them. So if you come into any of them, you see I've got students, grades, staff, and schedules here, and I click on the calendar, I can go in and schedule them. So you'll see by default, this sets that as active after you set the schedule. So say, for instance, this is during the summer and you don't want this to start running until school starts or something like that. You could wait on that, but come in, turn on the days you want it to run. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Put in your time to execute. Now, your MyFlexLearning account manager will discuss with you about the execution of these and what time we would like to schedule these. But when you schedule that, then you can just come in and say, for instance, this one maybe at 7 o'clock p.m. here. Okay. And then finally, send to the output. You want to send it to MyFlexLearning. So that will then take that remote connection we created with the SFTP information from MyFlexLearning and send it to that. So I can go ahead and save that. I've now got that created. And if I want to see that run, for instance, and you see that it creates a separate copy of that scheduled one, so that MFL students copy. But if you want to see if it actually runs, you can run it now. It'll tell you if it started the export successfully. And then finally, I can always check on this side. Now, obviously, you guys wouldn't have access to this, but I can check this, and your MyFlexLearning account manager can check this too. But if we come in here, and I'll just show you, I now have, and this is just a demo site I have, but I have that new file that I sent, that AGHS-student. And if I view and edit it or view it, I can come in here and see there's my export, and that's what MyFlexLearning would receive and import into our system. Again, so you'll have all those templates created, you'll schedule them, and then you should be good to go. If you have any questions, we also have a document that will be linked that will take you through these steps, and you can always reach out to us at support@myflexlearning.com. Thank you very much.